A lot of people ask about how God can be Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit, all God, and yet not three gods, but just one God. How does that work? Now, of course, we've got to think about what we are able to understand and what we're not able to understand. Christianity is something that we can understand as far as our minds go, but there are limits to our own minds. So there are things, and particularly things about the nature of God, that may go beyond our understanding. We should expect that if we have God who is really great and beyond our understanding, we should expect there to be things that we can't fully grasp. And I think that's what we can say about the nature of God. But what we can say is there's plenty of evidence within the New Testament that Jesus was accepted as God. He was one that people worshipped. He was viewed as creator. He was viewed as judge. And he talks about himself in categories that imply that he is God. And that's a really striking thing. And that the only way that the early Christians come to accept Jesus as one they could worship is by accepting him as God. Because the early Jews had a mathematical rule, and that was there is only one being you create. You worship, one being who creates, and that is God. So there's the creator and there's the created, and there's a very strong distinction between those two. So if they come to worship Jesus Christ and accept him as creator, it's clearly because they've accepted that he himself is God. Of course, there's a stumbling block to that. How can someone who looks like a normal human and then who dies a really shameful death, how can that person be the one true God who made everything? That was a big stumbling block. But at the end of the day, the evidence of the resurrection was so great that people had to accept that. So I'd want to say that we should start with understanding Jesus as God, the Holy Spirit as God, and the Father as God. There's plenty of evidence from within the biblical text that that's the case. Then you try to think, how can I relate to that? What's it like? Are there any images to try and understand that? And of course, if God is beyond our understanding, then there are things that we can't fully grasp about him. But what we can say is that we can understand that there is a one being who is God, and that not only does he manifest himself in three different forms, but actually he himself is in three persons. And those persons are quite necessary, because when God tells us, for instance, that he is love, that's something that not just he's claiming to be at that time, he's claiming always to be love. And for him, therefore, it's essential that there's always some other entity. And I think if we understand that within the persons of the Godhead, there are these three persons, then we can understand how love can flow between them. There's only one God, there's only one being of God, but within God, we can nevertheless see three distinct persons. And I think that fits very well with God being love.